When you're going through fertility treatments, every single step feels monumental. It's all so precise, so carefully planned, and everything, all that hope and effort, often comes down to one single critical moment, the trigger shot. It's supposed to be the final go-ahead, the starting gun that gets everything moving for a successful cycle.
Right? You've followed every instruction, done all the injections, you've been to every monitoring appointment, you've done it all perfectly. You're right there at the finish line. But what happens when that last crucial signal just doesn't land? It's so frustrating and, honestly, pretty confusing. So let's get into why that can happen.
Okay, first, take a look at this number, 3%. Now that might not sound like a huge number in the grand scheme of things, but when you're the one in that 3%, it feels like 100%, doesn't it?
Because that's the estimated failure rate for the standard, everyday HCG trigger shot. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into why it fails, and, way more importantly, we're going to look at the solid science behind a strategy that can knock that failure rate all the way down to under 1%.
So what is going on here? I mean, for decades, the HCG trigger has been the absolute workhorse of fertility medicine. It's designed to step in and mimic the body's natural signal for ovulation. But here's the thing, it has a hidden flaw. It's a really good stand-in, but it's just not a perfect copy of the real thing.
And when we say trigger failure, we're really talking about two different but equally heartbreaking scenarios. The first is what's called luteinized unruptured follicle, or LUF, where the follicle does everything it's supposed to, except actually rupture and release the egg. The second is empty follicle syndrome, or EFS. That's when you go in for your egg retrieval. The follicles look perfect, but there are no eggs inside. Both are just incredibly tough outcomes.
Okay, so if we're going to fix the problem, we first have to really understand why it's happening in the first place. And the science behind it is actually fascinating, and it gives us all the clues we need to build a much better approach. So check this out. On one side, you have your body's natural signal. It's a surge of two hormones, LH and FSH. But the standard HCG trigger shot, it only gives you that LH-like activity. It's completely missing that FSH piece of the puzzle, and that piece is absolutely critical for helping to break down the follicle wall so the egg can get out. Plus, the HCG shot hangs around for over a week, while your body's natural surge is quick and precise.
And that big difference leads to the four main reasons a trigger can fail. 1, the follicle just might not be mature enough yet. 2, like we just said, there's no FSH surge to help with the actual rupture. 3, sometimes there are genetic issues with the hormone receptors themselves. The locks on the cells are faulty. And finally, number 4, sometimes that huge, long-acting dose of HCG can actually overwhelm and numb the receptors. It's like putting too much key in the lock and jamming it.
Now, of all those reasons, there is one that we have the most control over, and it is arguably the most important one. And that's follicle maturity. We're not just talking about the quality of the egg inside. We're talking about the physical ability of the follicle to do its job. It has to be just right.
And this chart just says it all, doesn't it? One landmark study looked at this exact question. For those small follicles, under 12 millimeters, the rupture rate was a dismal 6%. Just 6. But for follicles in that Goldilocks zone, that 18 to 19 millimeter range, the rate skyrockets to 87%. The difference is absolutely staggering, and it just screams how important it is to wait for the right size. Okay, so knowing all of this, knowing that HCG is missing a key ingredient and that follicle size is everything, has led doctors to a much smarter, more complete strategy, and it's called the dual trigger. So what is this smarter trigger exactly? Well, you can think of it as a 1-2 punch. It's a combination of a GnRH agonist, something like leuprolide, given at the same time as a standard HCG shot. It's designed to overcome all the limitations of just using HCG by itself.
And here's the really elegant part. The GnRH agonist works by getting your own pituitary gland to release a surge of both LH and FSH, just like your body would do naturally. It brings back that missing FSH that's so important for breaking down the follicle wall, while the HCG shot is still there, providing that long-lasting support for the rest of the cycle. It covers all the bases.
All right, this all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Let's look at the data, because the numbers really tell the story here.
And this just lays it out, plain and simple. The estimated failure rate with a standard HCG-only trigger, it's sitting around 3%.
But with a dual trigger, that rate drops like a rock, down to about 1% or even less.
So just to really see it, you're starting here, with about a 3% risk of failure using the old standard method.
And by making this one strategic change, you could land here. Less than 1%. I mean, that is a massive, massive improvement for such a critical moment in the process. And the benefits don't even stop there. The evidence is so strong that a huge, recent analysis of multiple studies found that a dual trigger doesn't just prevent failure, it actually leads to better outcomes across the board. We're talking more mature eggs, higher quality embryos, and yes, even better clinical pregnancy rates.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, personally? The whole point here is to arm you with information you can actually use. So let's boil all this down into a clear, proactive game plan that you can take with you and discuss with your doctor.
Here are 4 key things to bring up. First, just confirm that the goal is to wait for those follicles to hit at least 18 to 20 millimeters. Second, ask the question directly, is a dual trigger the right strategy for me? This is a really important question if you've ever had a cycle that didn't go as planned before. Third, do a quick medication check and make sure you're avoiding things like ibuprofen or other NSAIDs right around ovulation. And finally, ask about the follow-up. How will you confirm that the trigger actually worked? Maybe with a quick ultrasound?
Which leaves us with one last, really powerful question. When you have a strategy that more closely copies the body's natural process, that has been shown over and over to reduce a critical failure rate, and then improves outcomes down the line, you just have to ask, is it time for the dual trigger to stop being a rescue plan and become the new standard of care for everyone? It's definitely a conversation worth having.